Hey there everyone, I am Shufflecat, and this is a Shuffle Showcase. We're looking at a replay of myself playing Stormcaller. I chose this particular replay mostly because I've been playing standard games yesterday for quite a while, and I'm trying to get replays for a showcase at some point. And it seems like every time I'm trying to get replays for a showcase that I'm getting a whole bunch of games where one team doesn't have a healer, whereas the other one does, or both teams don't have healers or something like that. And I kind of feel like games where both teams have healers are kind of more standard games, and they allow for more strategic options, whereas games where one team doesn't have a healer, it's either one-sided or it's just a complete one team camping and the other team just doesn't really have a chance. So I guess that's one-sided as well. But anyway, so I finally got a game where both teams had a healer. Of course, it's Alchemist versus Astronomer. So that's really cool. I immediately said, okay, no derping. I have to make this a good game. It has to, I have to actually pay attention and stuff. So that's what I was doing. I was really trying to do stuff that is informative or something to that effect, and kind of like timing my ultimates for good effect and that sort of thing. I've been really starting to think about Stormcaller's ultimate as it doesn't really do a lot of damage, to be completely honest. That guy, he was killed by a meteor. I actually timed that one and placed it right in front of his path. But anyway, his ultimate doesn't do a whole lot of damage. It's really short ranged, and you're not invulnerable while you're doing it, pretty much like any other ultimate. But it's so short range that I'm beginning to question the viability of his ultimate in any situation other than when you're already really ahead and you have like full health, because one of these games, I don't think it was this one, it was on the same map though, on one of these games I actually died using my ultimate to a straight M1 from a Thorn, and it's like, well, that's kind of silly. A ranged bloodline is using his ultimate, and then he dies to an M1 from a melee. Wow, that's a little bit interesting, isn't it? As opposed to, say, Gunner's or Engineer's ultimate. If you use Gunner or Engineer's ultimate while you're within range of a melee and he can kill you in one M1, I think you'd feel a bit silly about that too. Like an example in that situation, I was using my ultimate and I was in range of that Reaver, and he just kind of pulls me in and interrupts that. Now right here is when I really have to be kind of careful, and I have to be very specific about how I use my abilities. Right there, missing silences is bad. Now he's obviously going to jump on me, so I need to space away, and I used my tornado just as the rune was coming up. I was kind of planning for that, and at that point that EX space was crucial. I had to hit that, but because I missed it, I was way too close to him. I had to throw down Hailstorm, but it didn't do enough damage. I probably should have hit him with M2. I was probably afraid that he was going to hit me with parry or something, and for some reason your M2 is really hard to dodge parry, probably because there's only 0.5 seconds between the two projectiles. It's easy for them to predict the second projectile, and the projectile moves so fast. In fact, actually, let me make sure that it's really fast. Actually, it's the same speed as your M1, so whatever. But the casting time on your M1 is more noticeable, but after you've used it, it's gone, you know, pretty much. They can't parry something that's already been done. So I guess that's kind of what the line of thinking in that particular moment was. I saw this Alchemist had already used their barrier, so that's why I popped out directly off to that. That Harbinger had already used his Nether Shift and his space, so I just throw down a Hailstorm, and he wasn't able to get out of that. So that's the sort of thing that I was thinking about in that general area. I guess right then we had a Harbinger attacking a Astronomer, and they both had their ultimates out. And it's really interesting to look at all of the ultimates and say, okay, so this ultimate versus this ultimate, which one wins? And in my honest opinion, the Astronomer's ultimate and the Harbinger's ultimate are really high up on the list because they're also self-healing. They're long-lasting self-healing kind of abilities, or not necessarily abilities. They kind of, well, of course, also the Astronomer's ability is an ability. Anyway, I've sidetracked myself like 3 times now. The ultimates versus each other. Harbingers and Astronomers both heal each other. However, Stormcaller's does not. So Stormcaller's ultimate versus Astronomer's ultimate, for instance, is not a very good idea because you're not going to be out-damaging him. You're not going to be doing more damage than he heals. So you really come out with the short end of the stick with that arrangement. Now, this Alchemist he's already used his barrier, so we're gonna just finish him off with a ultimate right there. Unfortunately, I had already used my space, so he throws down goo, and that did do a little bit of damage to me. Luckily, the 6-second cooldown on the space means that I was able to get right out of there directly after that. So that is game number 1 done. We have one more game coming up here right now. And welcome back. This is game number 2. As I said, I was trying to find some games that had healers on both teams. So actually, I was taken a little bit aback by the discovery that I actually had 2 healers on my team when I was just now loading up this replay. So much so that I actually had to restart a bit because I was just sitting there going, oh wow, that's interesting. I've got 2 healers. But the reason why I, first of all, saved this replay, and secondly, that I wanted to watch it, is because some of the people in this game were actually saying, you know, that everybody was very well played, and it was a very enjoyable game. So I was actually really excited to watch this replay again, because it was really fun for me. It was really a couple of close games, and of course, it did have quite a few skill point areas or something to that effect. So as we do see here, I did make the mistake of, I think I got pulled off in the beginning, so that was kind of a mistake on my part. It does show what a lot of people say about double healer, which is that it is pretty a powerful composition when you really look into it, because if you lose one person on your team, you're pretty much guaranteed to have at least one more healer. So if you go into a kill and then counter kill situation where it's a 2 versus 2, you will usually come out in the more advantageous situation, because you're not really playing the odds of whether or not your healer will be the person who's killed on your team. And then if the person that you counter kill is a DPSer, then that would mean that it's a 2 versus 2, yes, but they have a healer and you don't, which means that you have to go on the offensive. So some people do actually run double healer compositions in a kind of a serious situation, but I believe that it does derive a different play style, so it doesn't necessarily work for everyone. It's not one of those things where, oh, we're going to run double healer and that means that we automatically win. Some things that people may not know is that Stormcaller's M2 actually does cancel channeled ultimates, like Astronomer's ultimate does actually get canceled by Stormcaller's M2 because it's a silence and it does cancel abilities in that sense. So actually he does have quite a few abilities that will stop most ultimates. I believe the ones that do are his Q, his M2, and the E. So that's 3 abilities, whereas certain bloodlines will only have about 2 two abilities. I'm trying to think of someone in particular. I guess Astronomer. He only has his Moonstone to stop channeled ultimates. Alchemist only has one as well. So it might be, if I remember correctly, it might be just that DPSers have quite a few, whereas healer bloodlines usually only have one ability that stops it. I haven't necessarily counted all of the abilities there, but also right here you can see if you do get one person on your team CC'd, particularly a healer, then the other healer can still heal up. So it's a little bit hard to burst down one particular person. They did a good job there. That was one ultimate. The Ravener's ultimate did force me to pull back a little bit into the Thorn's ultimate, but I was also slowed from the Ravener's ultimate. So that is exactly the sort of stuff that people need to do if you're going up against a double healer composition, particularly if the double healer has a ranged on it, because ranged usually have very few actual damage mitigation abilities. They usually have quite a few escape abilities. Stormcaller is actually a little bit of a exception to that. He does have quite a few damage mitigation versus escape. His escape is really not as much as some people may think. The only thing he really does have is his space, and that's because it's a 6-second cooldown. That you can actually count it as being a really good escape option, but once again, I mean, you can only use it once every 6 seconds, and that means that you can't really, if somebody times their attack just after you use it, then you're in big trouble. You really can't escape. The only other thing that you can do is use your shield or use your EXQ. Also right there, you can use your Aegis in order to mitigate damage. If something really bad were to happen, like a double ultimate or something like that, those are the abilities that you can use. Now right here, that Astronomer, he used his space, so I put down a Hailstorm directly on him, and that is, if I haven't shown it, a really good example of how Stormcaller's ultimate should be used. That is definitely one. The only way that I could have done that any better is if I would have used my lightning shield on myself directly after that. I do not remember if it was off of cooldown or not, but if it was, then that would have been a really good use for it. Of course, you can also save it for directly after you use your ultimate, which is another strategy thing that you can do, is you can use your lightning shield directly after you have used your ultimate in order to avoid follow-up damage, in order to escape and such, because usually you will have to space into using your ultimate. It's a really good idea, in my opinion, to do that, because you, of course, do get within range in order to use the Stormcaller's ultimate, but also it applies a gradual slow onto the person, which kind of makes it a little bit difficult for them to escape. So that looks like it's going to wrap up this game. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you next time.